back to Recorder on the Wall, where we're covering all of Redwall Media, one book, TV show, or video game at a time. I'm your Papa Evan Pete.
I'm Matthias.
I'm Katie.
I'm Brayden.
Oh, Katie, I'm glad to hear you got back from Noonvale safely.
Yeah.
So tell us, did you find out any more about the scandal of Ern Vos?
It was really hard to find anything out. Everyone kept saying no comment. The only thing that was different was I asked Grum about it, and he just was like, "Well, I'll make some soup." So I have no
Sounds
idea
about
what's
right.
going on. Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to our previous two episodes, yes, we're covering the final season of the Nelvana/PBS cartoon, Martin the Warrior.
Woohoo!
And when we left off, Rose was totally fooled by the obvious puppet.
That is still creepy, even though it's obvious.
It's yeah. So Martin had rushed ahead because he's Martin and is likes to rush into danger.
Martin rushes in.
Yeah. While the other three roll lower on their initiative track. So, but we literally begin with Rose being confronted by the three-eyed puppet. That's clearly a three-eyed puppet. Creepy, yes. But none of them apparently see the obvious wires.
I get the whole adrenaline thing though. You think it's something, so then your brain tricks you into actually it being the thing.
Yeah, this is straight out of an Ed Wood movie, though, frankly. So, but yes, they get the bright idea of charging it, the three of them, with sticks and beat it into submission, and realize it's a puppet.
Yep. Oops.
And there's Martin with a semi-smug look on his face, like, "Oh, hello."
Yep. The Murdoch with a flop goes kerplop.
Nice.
Now I'll
But
stop.
Yeah. No comment. But yes, play your Final Fantasy victory theme here, and they gained 300 XPs. No guilt. And we're introduced to the Murdoch family, which the monster takes its name from. And if you don't remember these guys from the books, these were the very prissy rabbits that the group briefly ran into. And I remembered them in theory, but I'd forgotten they were here.
They were a lot prissier in the book, though.
Incredibly so, which, given their neighbors, is surprising. Well, I'm not going to say anymore. But they're rabbits. The only appearance of actual rabbits over hares in this cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
well, wasn't there a rabbit in Matameo in the cartoon? Or was it a different creature in the cartoon?
The old crazy dude?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was a hare.
Because it was a rabbit in the book.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Huh. I'm going to shrug my shoulders and say, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. We could be pedantic about it. I mean, that's what we normally do.
On our show?
I was going to say, have you met us? We are always pedantic about it.
Yeah, the Murdochs, of course, showing hospitality, you take them in, and Martin does demonstrate how the spooky voice worked. But he's also kind of semi-jerky to this family. Does anyone else notice this?
Yeah, it's like, Martin, don't be mean to the bunnies. Be a nice guy.
I think they have very interesting behavior in context of like the Redwall world. Like they do more sniffing and hopping around like rabbits than, the
I want to bring this up.
way.
I wanted to bring this up. So that just begs the question.
How anthropomorphic are they?
Yeah, I didn't think I'd have to cover this topic again with this animated series anyway, because previous to this point, we kind of outlined how seasons 1 and 2 not only established scale, but went all the way to the anthropomorphic side. Yeah, various characters could have animal-like abilities, but generally speaking, they're very human-like animals. Our Murdoch family runs on all fours.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing. And
Yeah, they're in. It's like with a dog. They like smell Rose's hand.
Weird. These are the things that I don't notice just listening to the audio.
I mean, unless they designed audio cues around it, which would be equally weird.
That would be super weird. Like, unless Rose was like, "Why are you sniffing my hand like a dog?" And then it'd be like, "What's a dog?" And then it'd be weird.
Oh,
Anachronism.
But yeah, this is a surprise, and it's the only, well, at least in this section, it's the only like out of the ordinary thing I'm pulling up because it's just like, huh, well that happened. Again, as mentioned, they're kind of prissy, but not nearly what they are in the book. But they also complain about their neighbors loudly, and I'm sitting here like, then why don't you move?
Yeah.
Like if you're okay, you're
Maybe
not.
they're the
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Keep going.
I say if you're that potentially close to not only Marshank within a couple of days' travel, much less what we're about to see is next door, that is serious threat to your children, you would move.
Well, you know the housing market these days.
That very true. Absolutely true.
That, and they have a very vigilant neighborhood watch that keeps them safe most of the time. So
Well, Martin broke it. I mean, Rose broke it.
no, I'm talking about the local Air Force.
Oh, okay.
We are, of course, warned that by the rabbits that the local lizards are cannibals. Now, believe it or not, I was having an outsider who new to this franchise watch with me, and he was like, "Does that mean that lizards eat themselves?"
Nope, I
That's-
never
yeah.
got that impression.
So,
Unless they're super hungry.
yeah. They also, our Mirdot family also mentions, oh, look for the warden. We'll come back to him. Meanwhile, our roaming actor troupe is still running away from the fortress and making pretty good time. This is kind of unexpected, or did I jump around here a bit? Sorry. This is kind
We
of
did
unexpected.
jump around a little bit
Yeah.
because we missed the introduction of Batarang and Clog in the episode.
Well, why don't you take that? Because I organized my notes kind of poorly here.
Yeah, I put all my notes in sequential order. Batarang and Clog are arguing about, okay, the slaves have escaped. Okay, what are we going to do about it? Basically at each other's throats, but not really the way they've been throughout the entire series so far. So much as they have been all series long, Clog and Batarang are at each other's throats and disagreeing about everything. So Clog proceeds to leave, and Batarang stops and tells one of his underlings, basically, you know, we're going to need to do something about this, before the scene cuts back to Martin and Co. with the Murdops having tea time.
Yes. Murdoch do give them brief, as I said, they gave them some supplies and basically say, you're going to the marshes. Yeah, more on that in a second. But watch out for the cannibal lizards and look for the warden. Okay. So this next section is them going into the marshes. It's called marshes. It is called marshes. But in this cartoon, this is not wetlands. Not in the slightest.
No.
It's forest. 100%.
Interesting.
It's forest with a little extra green, muddy brown in the background with extra moss on the trees.
There's even fire pits just lying around.
I noticed that too. The Martin and crew go into, they camp, and even though Martin has been captured, once by Batarang as a kid, and then by the pygmy shrews, and Rose would be a fairly sensible traveler in herself. I can excuse Palom and Grum to a lesser degree, but no one thinks to post a guard.
Yeah, that was in the book too. Nobody did that.
Yep. And guess, oh no, they've gotten captured by cannibal lizards. Who could have seen that coming?
They make the weirdest noises in the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of them is clearly designed after a frilled lizard.
Mhm.
Much less, or you could even go as far as Jurassic Park style. The Dilophosaurus.
Mhm.
But when they wake up, we'll get to them after they wake up. But here's where a clog is chasing the slave cart, and I thought her name was Celadine this whole time.
It is. They mispronounced it in
Considerably.
the cartoon. Or, alternatively, it was an alternative pronunciation, as they have done before with Sela versus Sella. However, that really, because it's not even spelled like Calendine, is it? Or am I completely forgetting the way it's spelled?
No, it's spelled Celadine, but they
Okay.
pronounce it like Caladine.
That's weird.
And
I don't like
as she's running along, she trips and knocks herself out.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it's a.
You know, at least in the book, she got separated and lost from the group. And again, she's an experienced traveler. So the fact that she runs right into a tree on her own reconnaissance, oh man.
Yeah, I think from what I remember in the book, what happened was like she was running along with the cart and then she like tripped and fell or something and like got knocked out that way because they were running so fast that when she fell, she like knocked herself out.
Fair enough.
I think that's what happened. It's been a bit since I've read Martin the Warrior.
Yep.
Same here.
So Martin and his crew wake up, of course, prisoners of the cannibal lizards, and we'll get to the differences section, but and I was laughing my butt off out loud because the scene here is as Martin's group wakes up and realizes, yes, they're captive of the quote cannibal lizards, and the scene changes to this very ominous music. Oh, what are they going to do? You know, what are the good lizards going to do to this? And they bring you water.
Yeah.
So glad you could drop by. We'd like you to stay for lunch.
No, thank you for bringing us water. I don't know where that ominous music came from, but
That spooky music sting.
so yeah, and the lizards bring in the mushroom paste. They don't even call it that here, but yeah. So, and the group puts it together like they do in the book that yes, they're fattening them up for eating. Okay.
Including a little shine on the leader's teeth, a little sparkle of ding, it's sharp.
Yeah, that was great.
We go to the slave group, and there's Barkjon, who is barely conscious. And they basically take head count and realize, hey, where's Caladine? Calanadine, whatever. So I'm calling her Celadine. That's her name.
That is her name.
And he goes into a flashback vision here. Like, I was barely conscious on the cart, but I saw her run into a tree. Oh, we should
But it
probably
didn't
go
say
find
anything.
her. Sorry, go ahead.
But he didn't say anything.
No, he didn't.
I'm willing to write it off as, as somebody who's experienced that level of exhaustion where it's like you're barely able to take in what's going on around you. He probably had like no strength to say anything and probably passed out like 5 seconds later.
I'm willing to forgive it. Don't get me
And the
wrong.
pain too. Like,
Yeah.
you never know what those medications can do.
And we get Photo, who is mad with rage about this. I said mad with rage. I mean,
Oh yes, I very much believe this statement.
He's not Ben Stein monotone, but this is the best take they got from this actor. Like, he's barely frustrated. Like, he's Feldo. He is angrier than Martin. And that's
He is the tiny ball of furry rage. He is mini Hulk.
I mean, they could have even done like a more chilling, like Cold Fury, here. Because at one point, that's what actually scares Brom away from this guy.
Yeah, no, the audiobook take was a lot better. It was like, then I'll free her or die trying. Mwahaha. No, not that evil laugh was added by me, but the rest of it was good. It was from the
I mean,
audiobook.
it would be in character if we're
Yeah.
following the book.
Yeah.
And we, of course, go back to our main foursome, and they're not as eating as much, even though the lizards keep forcing it on them. And this is where we get our jackdaw, who is doing that half bird speak of gonna eat ya.
Oh, I thought that was a dipper or whatever.
Okay, it's another bird. That
It's a
we
bird.
only-
It's a bird.
yeah,
A bird.
and yeah. So war, and then I found like the book was better at depicting bird speak.
Yeah.
Audiobook does this way better.
It does.
And how's that?
I think it was like sort of the actress was making her like sing song, her voice sort of sing song like a bird would.
Okay.
Or like she would be like, Warden help us, Warden help us. And the song would
Okay.
say, Warden help us, like that.
And
Mhm.
here it's kind of like that, but just less effort. So
Yeah, if the
Yeah.
audiobook was doing 100% effort, this was like 33% or maybe even less. It was
So-
lazy.
we finally get to Celadine, and with Claude catching up to her, and he's kind of being creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 times creepier.
So, and she, of course, insults him, as she's wont to do. And I have a moment in my thought, I was thinking, like, that's just hurtful. But
Ugly toad. What?
but for any of you King of the Hill fans, which I am not, nor more because I just never had the time to sit down and watch it. But I do know this meme from that show, Pocket Sand.
Oh yeah.
And then
I think that's
suddenly,
in my notes,
deserts.
too.
Yep. Yeah. Celadine basically grabs a bit of dirt or sand from the ground, tosses in Clog's face to get away, and runs for this mysterious desert that has suddenly appeared. Or beach, more likely.
Ooh, you've unlocked
It's
the
kind of
beach
a-
achievement.
I want you
Can you say that again? You broke up.
to comb the desert while you're looking for them. Baseballs, more.
Oh, sir, because I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan, you win. So, of course, Saladine's running across the dune to get away from them, and we get Feldo, Bala, and Roanoke on the other side of the dune throwing javelins, except it's like the butt end, because it's a PBS cartoon, so they just it first implied they're knocking them all out, but oh no, they actually end up dead. The vermin chasing Saladin anyway.
Poor floater.
Not even Floater. They basically knock out three of them, and Clog can't convince his people to keep going because they've just watched three of their people, including Bloodnose. Okay, I forgot he was actually a named character, but yeah, he is killed by one of these sticks in the side of the head. And I'm sitting here wondering how many sailors Clog has actually lost.
I really like
Probably a lot.
when Clog is like trying to get them to go forward. He's like, it's just one squirrel, mate. What is she gonna do?
Mhm.
Lock javelin right by his feet. Shiver me timbers!
Yep. A stick! I've never seen one of those before.
Although the origin of the phrase "shiver me timbers" is actually terrifying. When a cannonball would strike very, very dry wood, it would send out splinters of wood or shivers of timbers, and they would go scattering all across the deck.
So basically, the
Now
whole
imagine-
expression is an anachronism because there's no cannonballs in Redwall.
I know. But you can still get it from a battering ram, which we get in the intro to the show. So kind of still works.
Kind of still works. Yeah, that's not in the book though, but that's okay. I can be pedantic about that.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, we've lost Bloodnose.
Oh dear.
Rip. Ugh.
I mean, his name was a bit on the nose.
Nah.
No, you earned that one. So back to our cannibal lizards who have about had it with Martin because, he's protesting being eaten.
How
And
dare you not let us eat you?
As one does.
Yes.
I gotta say, this episode has lost a lot from the Nelvana and PBS censoring of the original book material.
Mhm.
For one thing, yeah, they're cutting down on the violence, but you'd expect that. Those 3 vermin we just mentioned didn't die from javelins in their chest so much as side of their head, but with the blood in, which is kind of horrifying in its own right.
A bloodless death. Yay.
But also, you can they can tell they were trying to save money on animation budgets here, because there's maybe 3 lizards aside from the leader guy. Like, there's 4 of you, and 4 of them. Yeah, I get Grum and Pala may not be the best in an outright fight, but it's not impossible for Martin to win here. But that's okay. That's okay. One thing that was actually kind of horrifying to watch is that these lizards don't have any cooking implements, so they're just going to toss Martin right in the fire. Real
I
cowboy
did not
cooking.
think about that.
That's
Like-
not sanitary.
Caveman cooking style is what it's called. Yeah.
Cave-
This is a
I've
legit
lizard-
thing where people put cuts of meat like directly next to you or directly in fires. You could, and then eat it. So
This reminds
I've had
me
like a whole
of-
sheep's head just.
Wow.
What? Yeah, you're breaking up, Braden.
Yeah. Oh, I've had a whole sheep's head cooked that way. It's actually pretty good.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Sorry,
this
continue
reminds
with what
me-
you were saying.
This reminds me of a Far Side cartoon where you got a bunch of cavemen around a fire and they don't have sticks, so they're just holding on to what they're trying to cook, holding it over the fire, and they're like, "Ah, in pain." And one of them says, "Hey, look what Zoc do." And you see a caveman, but he's got like spectacles on to make him look smart, and he's got whatever he's trying to cook at the end of a stick.
Nice.
Of course, this is where the warning drops in, and because again, PBS / Nelvana, the Wharton doesn't eat these lizards. He just tosses them around and into the water, and they've totally learned their lesson.
Hmm.
Okay,
Also-
so that was in the book. I couldn't remember.
Oh no, the Wharton just eats any of the quote lawbreakers. So, in
He
the books,
definitely does.
That's
it's also not the voice I expected for the Warden at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know how to describe this, but it doesn't even sound like remotely threatening.
It
No.
sounds militaristic but unthreatening, which is antithetical to the Warden's character.
Oh,
Yes.
he is not his Judge Dredd persona here, not by a long shot. I mean, it still works. Of course, this episode wraps up with flashing back to Brom and Felda's group, with Brom getting an idea to strip the now 3 dead vermin of their weapons and clothing, and go do an infiltration of Batrank's fortress, which is from the books. But if anything, this TV show has done very well to show us that Brom is very much a child with a child's logic.
And a child's voice. Like, I cannot picture the sea rats falling for this little boy voice going, I'm a pirate.
I'm Wild Ivy.
Oh no!
Sorry, I could not resist. It was the perfect opportunity.
And of course, this episode ends with the foursome not posting a guard, probably just trusting in the Warden. And hey, Warden, what are you doing hanging out with those slow worms? Oh,
Yeah,
they're-
the same slow worms that Helen was like, slow worms, don't worry, they're harmless.
Yes.
Yeah, real harmless.
yeah, that ends episode 7 / 33.
33, The Great Escapes.
Yep. Not really doing so well there on the escape there thing, Martin. How many times have you been captured?
You'd think he'd have a complex about this at
Look,
this
he's
point.
He does it a lot.
We hadn't even gotten a moss flower, so yeah.
Yep.
Oh, ouch.
So, and then I have from the Redwall fan wiki here the difference from the book. In the book, the warden eats lizards instead of throwing them into the river. Yes, we covered it. In the book, the cannibal lizards tie nooses around the prisoner's neck in the book, but in the series, they tie their paws. And while we did see a brief scene of Palom, Rose, and Grum trying to help Martin, it didn't last long. Whereas in the book, they were kind of very much a lot better restrained.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then in the book, third one, Clog's vermin are impaled by the Fern Freedom Fighter's javelin, while in the episode they're simply knocked on the head and still counted as murdered. So, you know.
They must have poison tipped those javelins.
Either that or it caused some significant Dane damage.
Well, yes.
There's that. Or if
I
Bloodnose's
do-
contract was up and, you know, he was written out.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is one thing I want to point out is we kind of glossed over the javelin throwing contest where
We did.
Fellows like,
Go ahead and bring it up.
"Hey, I'm gonna go rescue Celandine," and it's like, "We want to come with you." I don't think you're gonna be much help to me. Okay, what if we can prove that those javelins you're making, we can throw better than you? I'd like to see you try.
And this is for the record, this is Feldo talking to Roanoke.
Yes. So she pulls out a short piece of wood and makes a little throwing stick, an atlatl, and uses it to throw twice as far as Feldo can with a javelin. And he's like, "Okay, you can help me now."
Yeah, that's like right out of the book too.
Now, the thing I find amusing is the fact that it's like, okay, squirrel throwing javelin,
Yeah.
badger throwing javelin.
Right.
And we all know badgers are kind of overpowered. But
Yes. Now give badger tool that doubles length of throw. I have a feeling Roanoke was holding way back.
I agree.
I think if she had gone all out, she probably would have stuck a shark with one of those things.
Hey, dinner's on. Episode 8/34.
From marshes to mountain heights.
Yeah, marshes, in air quotes. So we wake up, and of course, we do get in between episodes, as we've mentioned already on show, that there's those tapestry segments that serve as unofficial recap. And I gotta say, all three episodes have had pretty good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Now, put that into context of it being the early 2000s and, not being able to watch every episode you want to see on demand.
Mm-hmm.
So one episode a day, and it's like, okay, it gets you up to speed on where you were. It served a very practical purpose.
Absolutely.
So if any of our younger listeners who've only ever known streaming services are listening, be glad you live with streaming services. They used to not exist. I had to literally record these sequentially on old VHS tapes just so I could have the entire series.
I have a friend who has a 5-year-old child, and she was trying to explain to him, like, this is how we used to watch shows. We couldn't watch them all at once. He's like, but, and he couldn't get it. He's like, but how did that work? He was just so confused.
Well, on the writing side, either you had to keep people very well informed with recaps like this, or you had to write shows where status quo is God.
I, on the one hand, like some of that older, status quo is king business because it kept things a little bit more predictable. But on the other hand, it did get old after a while. and you couldn't tell a serialized story as easily, which is why shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender were considered to be groundbreaking because, hey, every episode builds on the story.
It's not to say that we didn't have kids shows before that were long-term stories, but they were a lot less common.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
Justice League Unlimited did it a
Yeah.
lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Justice League Unlimited. Yeah, you'd get like 2 and maybe even on rare occasion 3-parters.
Right.
And on some very, very rare shows, they would do like an entire week, so they'd do like a 5-parter.
The original season 1 Power Rangers, the Green with Evil arc.
So, I mean, you really didn't get it very often. And when you did, you'd get like a 30 to 60-second recap at the beginning of the episode to say, here's where we were last time and our story up to this point. And I think a lot of studios just leaned a little bit too heavy into that to cut down on, hey, if we can save 5 minutes of runtime, we're going to save 5 minutes of runtime.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not to say this doesn't happen in a live action show. I mean, I grew up with Star Trek: The Next Generation in its original run, and that show was very much, hey, each end of it, you did get your 2-parters, especially at the end of various seasons, but anywhere in between that, you mostly had self-contained episodes that occasionally would reference older material.
Yeah. Well, everyone says Deep Space Nine did a good balance of that, and it's true.
Yes. Moving back to episode 8.
Yeah, speaking of Star Trek.
Yes, because we're totally a Star Trek podcast.
Yes.
Don't tempt me. I will never stop calling that, and there's already plenty of good Star Trek podcasts.
Yes.
But episode 8. So it literally begins with, yeah, the warden is kind of being choked to death, then Martin rushes to help him, and oops, more slow worms for you.
Well.
And his companions are still just in dreamland. Oh dear.
Yeah, I think they wake
Meanwhile-
up very much quicker in the book. They're just like, oh, what's going on? Wow.
Meanwhile, Brome's vermin impression is lackluster.
Yeah.
As I wrote down my notes, and Matthias definitely commented on too. We get Brome approaching a random pilot who's been limping on the way home, and of course Brome helps him. And like, hey, I don't know you. I mean, I've been sailing on Clog's crew for years, and I don't recognize you from the ship. But okay, you're clearly a member of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And you sound like a literal child.
Well, all they have to do all the time is just say, the boss told me to do this, and it works.
Yes. Although I do generally like this child actor. I think he does a very good job with Brome generally, but this I'm just like, how is this guy not noticing the tiny child voice doing a pirate imitation?
Yeah, the plot hole is bigger than Scarum's stomach.
Uh-oh. That's a big plot hole.
That's big.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, the rat is Wulp, by the way.
Yes.
And looking at him, he is tiny compared to the fully grown.
It's like he comes up to his chest, and it's like, how many vermin species are that tiny outside of Vitch, who doesn't count?
Well, as we established, Vitch is very much a weenie, but that's our story.
He is not a weenie.
I'm not. You'll respect me.
Vitch Bad Red had more respect than you. But yes, Brome escorts him back to the front gates of Marshank. And can this marriage be saved between Badring and Clog? Because even their own crews are just like, they've been going at it for hours. Good lord.
Yes.
Mom and Dad, stop.
Yeah.
I think they're just using it as cheap entertainment at this point to distract them from their own miserable lives. It's like, we'd rather watch our 2 brave leaders fight it out, because it's either that or endlessly marching who knows where, doing who knows what for who knows why.
Exactly.
And what is Batarang even allowing Clog shelter at this point?
Nobody knows.
So he pulls out what should be Martin's sword, points it at Clog, and is like, you know that food and drink that you're having, that belongs to me? Well, you're gonna have to earn it now. What does Clog do? He throws down the jug and shatters it on the ground. Yeah, real mature there, bro. Real mature.
But yeah. So I'm sure they're not gonna try to take vicious actions against each other, and they'll find a way to peacefully get through this, right?
Of course
always
they
do.
will.
Right.
Yeah. Sure, let's go with that.
So back to Martin, who is also being choked out while the warden is by these slowworms. Suddenly Rose wakes up and realizes your not boyfriend is in kind of actual trouble.
Oh, before we get too much further, skipped over Brome revealing himself to the other slaves and
Oh,
being
yeah.
like, I'm here to rescue you. And, well, was starting to fall asleep and it's like, you look like a kind of mouse with your hat off. Whomp, as
Yeah.
Kayla drops a sandbag on his head.
He won't
Poor-
remember.
Poor Wulp.
Yeah.
I almost feel bad for him because he's just so pathetic.
Yeah, I kind of do.
But yes, so Brome is here to rescue the slaves. Yay. And of course, Rose wakes up Pound and Grom, and they go rescue Martin, and they have a 30-second long conversation while the warden is still being choked out.
Talking is a free action, don't you know that?
But yeah, the warden should be very dead by long after this point, but that's another story. We go back to Marshank, where both Batarang and Clog have been reading Mad Magazine way too much and are setting up a spy versus spy scenario.
I know it's not that ironic, but I still found it somewhat ironic. He said, I have to take matters into my own hands. You, do this for me.
Yes.
Now, to be fair with Batarang, if he took a jug of wine straight out to Clog and didn't drink from it, Clog would be suspicious.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Mhm.
So sending a messenger here is probably tactically smart.
Yeah.
Mhm. Meanwhile, Clog's like, hey, you can throw daggers really well. Want to go throw a couple of those frog stickers at Batarang? Great.
I learned my knife throwing from Wild Ivy.
But sir, won't that leave me horrendously exposed in the middle of Batarang's fortress around all his people?
Just go throw the knife, will you? Okay, sure.
Aww.
You could go. That would be great.
Yeah. So if you do that, yeah, that'd be great.
I approve of this. So
So,
yes,
poison versus throwing daggers. Which will win? Both and neither.
That is true. Both and neither are correct.
Yeah.
and believe it or not, the Redwall Wiki has a straight up section of mutual kills, and this is
Really?
one of them. So yeah, Oilback of course kills Batarang's spy, who is Gurad, and Gurad takes a knife to the back because Oilback doesn't bother to confirm it's Batarang before killing the guy.
He just sees a guy in blue cloaks linking along at night.
I mean, yeah, Batarang wears that fabulous blue cape, but it's a big leap in logic, to be certain.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and he does do this in the book too. And I think we spent a few minutes on the podcast being like, what if he just kept throwing a knife? Like, that's not Batarang. That's not Batarang either. Oh man, that's not Batarang either.
I've got knives for days.
Somehow he has access to knives like Batman has access to batarangs. It's like, where does he keep all of these? I don't know. I don't want to ask questions. I don't want to end up with one of those in my back either.
So, of course, yeah, Oilback kills Gurad, and oh crap, it wasn't Batarang. But rather than just hiding and waiting for Batarang to appear, I'm going to grab this jug of wine and dash out the fortress.
Yep.
Here,
And
let me sit.
I'm running into this very, very short vermin and this less short vermin that neither of them look like vermin. And they have all the slaves. What's going on here? Not my business. I'm a sea
Nope.
rat.
Brom and Keeler are just, they're very calm and direct. Like, look, Battering told us to put the slaves in the prison pit. Oh, okay, well, carry on. And we're just conveniently going to walk in the same direction. And, oh, this is awkward. Yes, it is. Run along now. So, yeah. Our slaves are trying to escape by going out through the tunnel in the prison pit, which we do get confirmation Grump put back together, at least the entrance, before he left.
And it looks perfect. And it's like, how did he do this from the other side? No idea.
Grom is the most talented character in this whole book series. I've said this before.
He's the foremost formal.
Yes.
Yes.
So he's a 5 mole.
He's a 5 mole.
5 moles on Yelp.
5 mole, 5 ever.
This was ahead of his time. He said, "This is madness, and then he Sparta kicks it.
Oh no.
So yes, Brom and Keeler come to the prison pit, and the one guard on duty manages to wake up. Wait, no, he's awake at that point.
Yep.
And he's just like, "What
I'm
are you
watching
doing?"
it right now.
Yep. Yeah. The problem with doing these cartoons is versus when the books, where I can literally have it next to me or open, is I've watched it, but I can't go back and really rewatch it when I'm recording these shows.
I mean, you could, but
I mean, I'm doing that. I have it split screen on my tablet with the notes.
Oh, very fancy.
Same.
So the guard threatens to ring the bell, and they're like, well, you could ring the bell, but remember what happened to the last guy who was on guard duty when the slaves escaped? You don't want to end up like him, do you? No, I don't. I'll watch the slave pit like a hawk. And it's like, but you're supposed to be watching the gate. I'll watch the gate then.
Yeah.
I mean, the last guy who had this job just got a pink slipped and sent on his way.
Yeah.
Why do all the guards end up being absolute idiots?
Nobody knows.
Previously discussed, well, Clog and Battering did not hire from the top tier minion agency.
Well, they're cheap. They use slaves. What do you expect?
Yeah.
That's true.
They have slaves and they have wage slaves. The only difference is the wage slaves can beat up and abuse the actual slaves.
Yes.
Apparently.
They have.
But back to the guard is basically a trick, and yes, Brom and Keeler start loading people into the prison pit without telling them, hey, we're going to sneak out through a tunnel down there. They wait till they're all at the bottom before Brom just dramatically punches the wall and knocks out the tunnel.
Yeah, that's the Sparta kick.
Oh, excuse me.
I was ahead of you. My bad.
That's all right. So yeah, you could have told people like where you were going instead of like, oh, let's throw these slaves in an even worse place than they normally sleep.
He wants to be the hero, though. He's very dramatic. He's been practicing this.
And I'm pretty sure that slave that calls him out for putting them in the pit with no plan, although she's instantly proven wrong, is the angry grandma, or it's the grandma from earlier who's now angry.
That's the impression that I got, because the voice sounded the same, but...
The one who can't jump out the window, but can crawl through a tunnel.
Yes.
Well, the one is bad for her back and hips. The other is bad for her knees and elbows. So
I get it. There's no winning here.
Lose.
That being said, yeah, they're like, hey, there's a tunnel. Let's move. Let's go. We get back to our foursome, who the warden should be very dead by this point, but isn't.
Yes.
They do rescue the warden.
Yep. Because somehow the talking as a free action actually holds up in universe. Don't ask me how.
So yeah, he takes them to the foot of the mountain and points out, here's Bold Red's cave, that's where you need to go.
Yeah, they managed to fight off the slow worms with fire because fire.
I mean, well, no else fails, use fire. And for
Yep.
those of you other 80s children who got that reference, good for you. So
culture.
we are finally back to God Tribe House. Oh no.
Oh no.
And honestly, this version of the God Tribe is more Lost
Insufferable?
Boys-esque than what I read in the books. If that makes sense.
It's
They're
more
not particularly violent until later, but initially they're just more curious kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
I
violent later.
I could save this note for later, but I'm just going to give it now. I'm getting more and more convinced that Brian based the God Tribe on schoolyard bullies a la Wilf Smithers.
That would make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I get the same energy off of both of them. It just like I'm doing this because it amuses me with absolutely no thought of future implications on what could happen because I'm not that bright.
Although I do get the impression that Wilf is a little bit more of a coward than these squirrels. These squirrels just don't seem to care. They're like, woohoo, this is fun. And if they get like defeated, they're just like, ooh, it was still fun. They're just like agents of chaos.
Which is why I'm more of on the vibe that they're Lost Boys. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even the classical literature version, much less the movie Hook version, they don't. Even though some of them die, they see things as game more than life.
Mm-hmm. And that I think has to do more with the mob mentality than the actual individual parts themselves. Because individually, it's like I'm humiliated, I'm hurt, I'm in pain. The others don't have enough empathy to be able to identify that, so they just laugh it off.
Yeah. And the God Tribe are very dressed, very. I'm trying to find the right word here, but kind of almost Jessica-like. They seem to have like facial dyes at certain points, and some of them wear pants, some do not. By pants, I mean loincloth. But other than that, it's kind of tribalistic.
Yeah, some of them have been taking a lot of fashion advice from Winifred. Like half Winifred, half painted ones.
Yes.
Sure.
Way to put it. And again, more credence to my Lost Boys thing. All of their voices, with the exception of one, are childlike.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Only one who gets the adult voice, which we'll meet shortly, is different from that. So, by the way, did we get our cave in this end of this episode?
Yes.
Or is that next?
No, it happens here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the very end, right?
Yeah. And we do see Keela, who I had to go double check on the wiki whether this was a male or female character. It's male, but apparently in audiobook and it's shown in the book, it's supposed to have that very deep bass voice.
Yes.
It's a tenor here, to be certain.
Definitely more like young boy sounding.
Yeah, and that's what threw me when I initially watched this episode as a kid, is because it's one of those very obvious woman doing young boy's voice. So ambiguous gender is ambiguous.
Well, that's interesting because the listed actor here is Noah Reid.
Really?
Yeah.
I always thought it was a boy.
Yeah, I always gathered more boy than woman.
Although that reminds me of, you were saying, Matthias, last episode that it bothered you that Palin was made a girl. It kind of bothers me too, just because I'm so used to the audiobook voice.
Yeah, which is exactly what I assumed you would say, because, as people who have listened extensively to those audiobooks, it ingrains yourself certain characterizations. Like when I hear Rackety Tam, it's always Paul Braithwaite.
Right. And I mean,
It's an iconic performance.
it is. Like, and I'm not against more female representation, obviously. It was a little bit weird to me. It seemed like a weird choice. And also, like, did they make the character a little bit more timid in the series? Because that is also annoying. If it's a female, obviously it has to be more frightened. I know that there were some parts that Palom was frightened in the book as well, but it just seems like she's more frightened in the cartoon, which is annoying.
Yeah, this version of Palom seems to be less self-sufficient and more scared things quicker.
Yeah, and I don't like that. Feminist rant over. Please continue.
Yes. So, yeah, this episode, this Martin is also less rushy to violence than Book Martin, but not necessarily a bad thing there.
Yeah.
But the episode ends here not just on the cave-in, but we get introduced to what I mentioned earlier, the one adult voicing sound member of the God Tribe, the leader, Waka. And
although he pronounces it kind of like walk instead of waka, and all I could think of is waka waka waka.
Oh no. Oh no.
But yeah, Waka here is the only one who sounds voiced like an adult. Yes. Or at least post-puberty teenager. And maybe that's with the God Tribe. When you actually finish puberty, you have to leave. But of course, he challenges our foursome because they're on God Tribe land, and they of course threaten to call the warden. And the God Tribe's like, "Ha!" And they're like, "Oh, we'll call Boldred." Well, Boldred's not here, so the only way through is to basically for Martin to wrestle.
Yep.
And as he's about to hand over his little shrew short sword there to Rose, Waka proceeds to ambush him, and cut to Tapestry image. We're going to the next episode.
And then Tapestry version of Waka is like, oh my god. Like teeth bared, and yeah. This is not going to be wrestling. It's so much angry fighting, as far as PPS cartoon would allow them.
Yeah, more mixed martial arts than anything.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the end of episode 8/34. Let's see the differences, shall we?
Indeed.
Sure.
Differences from Martin the Warrior. In the episode, Keela panicked when the tunnel caves in, but in the book, Keela was the only one who does not react with fear, but rather snaps an anchor. And they did do this in the TV show. I didn't react to this. Keela is clearly claustrophobic this entire time.
Yeah, although you could argue that he did react with fear in the book, it was just a little bit less obvious. He was just like, "No, I'm not gonna die!" Rah! And he digs his way out.
Yeah. There's that too. And the other thing is, Wolf never figured out that Brome was really a mouse in the book, which that's minor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's harder to get away with in the TV show, obviously, because Brome is clearly a adolescent mouse who is a lot smaller than his compatriots.
Yes.
So maybe they did write that too. Like, oh yeah, we should probably explain this. Okay. Episode 9, Heroes and Fools / episode 35.
Yep. With, once again, the intro, outro, Tapestry images being absolutely on point.
Mm-hmm. So, and as, Waka, I guess we point out, he attacks before Martin's ready. And we also get some very angry Dragon Ball Z staring. Where they're not actually doing anything, they're just kind of glaring at each other.
So glaring is also a free action.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And Martin only has 5 minutes to end this fight. No, he's not going to call down a spirit bomb because that would make no sense. But yes, yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd. So it's more honestly this fight. I mean, the original is definitely more bloody because they bite at each other, and Martin really goes and kicks Waka's butt in the book
Yes.
considerably. Like he probably would have killed him had Rose not stopped him. But this is more like a schoolyard bully fight. It really is.
Mhm. I have a note here. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
We're very WWE, just going for the pin.
Quick, have someone hand Martin a chair. Ooh,
Yeah.
the chair.
Oh! Threw him off the steel cage.
But and of course, pocket dirt. It's one of the things that here this does outline is that Waka fights the Red Wolf Wiki outlines in Waka's page that Waka kind of it's more he's fighting dirty and with if you call not biting dirty, but he's using quote tricks to beat over Martin, including throwing sand in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Martin wins, and instead of beating Waka unconscious, he just basically tells him to yield. He puts his standing on his chest or neck. It's like, you give up, and Waka does.
I can't hear you. I yield.
Yep. And the rest of the God tribe, rather than just kind of leave quietly like they do in the book and leaving their poor leader to just sit there bruised and beaten, they all hiss. Was that the noise?
Yeah, something like that.
They basically like, oh, they're mad that their leader gave in. But okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yes, Martin has won. Yay.
There was much rejoicing.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yes. But of course, Martin does take some scratches, which actually become a plot point later. But meanwhile, back at the fortress, remember that guard from earlier, that ferret? He has been fallen asleep during his one job.
Yes.
You had one job.
Mhm.
And he wakes up and he realizes, he's talking to another one of his compatriots, like, "Hey, where's the slaves? What do you mean? They're right in the prison pit." No, I press.
I look in there every day as I come to do guard duty, and there was nobody in there today. You're
Oh,
kidding, right?
I am so fired.
A
Yep.
weird hobby. I'm gonna go look in the prison pit today.
It's kind of it's not so much told as a job. He's just more of a kind of the other guy's own just habit when he gets up and he walks to, I guess, the mess hall. He walks by the prison pit and checks it on it.
Yep.
So yeah, it's I'm so fired. And of course, someone has to go tell Badrang. Oh dear. And Badrang takes it well.
Oh yeah.
Sure. If by well you mean absolute rage,
Yeah. And he assumed Clog somehow is find it. And this is of course this is tossed Clog out earlier. And surprisingly, Badrang approaches him for a truce. And just ignore that oil back over there. Yeah.
yeah, that corpse that we can't say is actually a corpse because this is a show intended for 7-year-olds.
Yes.
I do notice that both of the major chieftains just talk about out loud for their assassination plot for almost anyone to hear.
Yeah.
If you're gonna monologue, make sure you're alone.
So he starts monologuing. I knew someone would get that reference.
Mhm. So
Well, they're
of
very
course,
airing dirty laundry, so you know.
So yes, battering and let's see. No, it hasn't happened. Does that happen where they meet up and do their truce to go find the slaves, or am I jumping ahead?
You're jumping ahead.
Okay.
I think.
Then what's next?
I'm jumping through episode right now. Oh, we talked about it. We touched on it briefly, but yeah. So the slaves escape out the tunnel, and then Badrang sends the poor guy who's gotten stuck with the blame of it's his fault to go and see where the tunnel exits. And he's basically like, yay, I made it out. And then we cut to Bella, Roanoke, and Feldo running with Brome to catch up with the escaped slaves. Brome ran ahead to help rescue them. And then they see them running up the shore, and oh no, Badrang's right behind them.
Oh
Yep.
dear.
Oh, by the way, that truce that Clog and Badrang totally met. Clog tells Badrang he'll go search. Badrang should go search towards the north, and Clog will go search toward the south. And Clog doubles back and takes Marshank.
Yep, smart.
Thought it was reversed, that Clog says he's going to go north because Badrang is going to go south. But anyway, regardless.
Point is, Clog doesn't change the box.
Yes. But the geography of the scene, using Marshank and the ocean as a reference point, the sea is on the right, meaning they're on the east coast. Yes, I'm still mad about this. I want some consistency. Is that too much to ask for?
Yes.
My fantastical world of anthropomorphic animals.
Fair enough. And remember, folks, if you ever think I'm pedantic or Katie's pedantic, remember there's always Matthias.
I want exacting, nauseating detail. Is that too much to ask for? Apparently.
Well, write to Netflix now before they finish everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, Clog is, like I said, Clog moved into Marshank and does not change the locks. I'm sure that doesn't gonna come back to haunt him.
Yeah, that wasn't very smart.
Yeah.
I mean, Clog's not very smart.
I
No.
mean, he did post sentries to his credit. At least he did in the book, but they were like facing the front, and they weren't posted at the slave tunnel or anything.
But yes, going back to Martin and crew, well, they've reached the mountain. Ricola!
I get it.
But they're props to the animators. Normally, when people are involved in fights in this kind of show, their animation model rarely changes. Like, sure, you'll see it on modern ones when someone's been in a rough fight, they'll have some scratches, or maybe go as far as showing a bruise, black eye. But in the shows of this era, not really. Oh, but no, we see scratches on Martin's face. So, okay.
The number of times you see a character and they're supposed to be injured, their face just looks dirtier. I don't get that. It looks terrible.
Yeah, that's about it. And Palom's like, oh, I saw some healing herbs back on the path. Okay, Palom, we get it. You need your 420 hour. But yeah. And yeah, they're gonna heal up Martin by wrapping up his wounds. So.
And then we flash back to the slaves trying to escape, going through some sort of Navy SEAL training.
Spartacus did that.
Oh God, Navy SEAL.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I know. I got it after a second. The frickin' Hom joke is back.
Yep.
So yeah, we also see Kilo carrying with one of the slaves, which is probably the old grandma.
hmm
And yeah, they get to the cliff edge where, oh no, we're trapped at a dead end, and there is Brome and Feldo and Roanoke and Paula with ropes to pull them up. So, and as they go up, Batarang, him again, props to him. He's not leading from the rear. He's actively engaged. Tries to catch up with one of the slaves and grabs her football, only for Roanoke to pull the rope quick, and Batarang falls onto rocks
Ouch.
and should
On
be
his
very
back.
dead at this point.
Okay,
Yeah,
but this
he
is.
should be a Clooney 2.0 situation.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna say this is the cartoon that had someone drenched in boiling water and miraculously alive with no injuries. So
Point. But I mean, cartoon physics aside, even in the books, this would have killed that person.
yes,
So we're talking straight up Wile E. Coyote. And
Or
battering
at least give him the goofy.
Yahoo!
Goofy law, yeah.
Wilhelm scream.
No, Goofy yell. But Wilhelm scream would work too.
yes.
Yes. Actually,
Uh,
if you did both of them at the same time, that would be hilarious.
That,
So that when Bagrang is dusted off and gets up, and he tells one of his people, "Hey, take 10 trackers." And do you even have 10 people left?
I would assume most of them are dead at this point.
He didn't even have 10 people chasing the slaves with him. But to keep the slaves to get away, they have Roanoke and Bala, and then I think Feldo and Brom work together, push over the rocks the ropes are tied to down the cliff towards the vermin. Again, straight up Wile E. Coyote.
Mm-hmm. I like that timing though. He's like, on my cue, now.
yeah. Ooh, okay.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Batarang is not only has he lost his slaves, he doesn't know it yet, but he lost his fortress, but I'm sure he can fix that. We go back to Clog, who has not changed the locks on Marshank.
Nope.
I don't even know if he's actually posted guards, but we witness a scene of him eating in front of his own crew while they are literally drooling over the food they don't get.
He's also eating meat.
We'll assume birds, because that's the most likely option.
Yeah, I think they were all feasting in the book.
Well, here, they're not really doing that. It's just Clog, who's sitting on Batarang's throne.
That's very rude of him.
It is, because considering that Clog is one of the few to lead by respect over fear, this is a little out of character for him.
Yeah.
I'm going to once again chalk it up to somebody whose job it was to adapt the scene. Was like, no, I want to do it this way. And if anybody who actually worked on the show wants to contradict me on that, please come on the show. We'd love to interview you.
So, yeah. And it literally becomes a mosh pit when Clog throws his food scraps to his own men.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Martin wakes up to Palom singing in his face.
That's not at all weird.
Yeah.
It's so funny because it's the opposite in the book. In the book, he drifts off to sleep to Palom softly singing this little song.
And here it's his wake-up call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rose pulls a pot of mystery fluid. It's told that it's a drink to help him feel better. Straight off the fire and gives it right to him to drink.
All right then.
Yes,
Lord.
I too like drinking mystery herbal fluids that are probably boiling hot straight from a hot pot.
Yeah.
He even tells him it's a mystery fluid. He's like, I don't know, it's supposed to help.
Don't ask me. I rolled nat 20. I don't know what I'm doing. It just kind of happened.
Enjoy.
So we get finally in episode 9 with the return of the God Tribe, who basically, straight out of the books, they're basically like, hey, we're going to chase you, throw you off the mountain when we catch you because it's Tuesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Martin goads them just straight out of the book, where it's like, realizing that if we tell them not to catch us until we get to Boulder's cave, then they won't do it. But so he does for a ledge a little more than halfway up. And poor Grum, who is not used to climbing, and much less nobody has any climbing equipment or belay ropes. This is all free climbing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one heck of a gym there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when they get to the ledge and give everyone a second to breathe, Martin's just like, "Hey, God Tribe, I lied. See ya."
Yeah.
And of course, they're mad. They're going to scramble up after them. And that ends the episode. So, differences from Martin the Warrior according to the fandom. Nothing. No, there's
Well,
something written here.
Well, we just found one. A very, very minor quibbling point that the song, Martin falls asleep to the song in the book, but he wakes up to it in the animated
Wakes up to
series.
it loudly in his face.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not as bad as having scalding whatever poured down his throat. So...
The contents of my stomach are now boiling. Do you have any
And-
coffee grounds?
Yeah. So that was the end of episode 9/35. So all in all, this is still pretty close to the book, all things considered. And what few changes we get are minor at best. So there's not really any wild obvious to worry about.
No, I mean, unless you want to count Palom as a new character, which I kind of do.
Because
Mm-hmm.
she's she's a little bit differently written in the book, in the TV show.
Yeah,
be
and I
certain.
mean, it's not necessarily a case of male versus female. It's a case of like, I don't know, Palom in the book seemed more practical and like, I mean, there were times when he was afraid, but like, I don't know, Palom just seems very timid in the series, like way more timid and a little bit more, I don't want to say useless, but a little more,
A little bit more damsel in distress.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it uncomfortable for me, because it's just like Rose is the very picture of a strong female character. Palom is the exact opposite.
Right.
Do you think it's on purpose to like offset?
I don't know.
Yeah, I just wish that they would have, if they would have wanted to do a timid character, if they would have made it a male, it would be a lot more interesting, because there are males who are timid and like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being afraid. Like, I want to say that, like, if you're on a journey with like all these squirrels chasing you, I'd probably be pretty afraid too.
I mean, to
However-
be fair, Pelham is as far as we know, Pelham was taken as a child, and
Yeah.
became a slave from that on in, and is now an adult,
Mhm.
and literally leaving their one place they've ever really known, even
Yeah.
as a slave, would be scary as heck, even to see
Yeah.
the outside world.
Yeah.
And it's not like Pelham's had a great time this whole time traveling with these other three.
This is an
So,
awful experience. And it only gets more fun.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
oh, what's more fun than having to run from your life from a bunch of murderous frat boy squirrels?
We will see in episode 10.
We will.
And I mean, for the eventual end of the series, spoilers, Rose dies.
Yes, we know.
You
And
have to get that in at least once at each episode of this series.
of course you do.
And that's your
So-
experience in the outside world where it's just tragic. Ooh.
So that being all said, my only real complaint here, and it's not so much as a complaint as just a notation, is that this TV show, for the obvious reasons we've already outlined, has cut down on the violence. much less some of the sections here, like said, slow worms, or even depicting the size of Batarang and Clog's respective troops, there's less to go around. Like, less than there should be. Now, I get it. Animation's expensive. And even if you're just copying and pasting the same model in the same scene, like, they didn't do that as much as you'd expect. That being said, this is pretty good. I think we're gonna still have to cover the remaining 4 episodes, but so far, I think I'm still biased here on which of my favorite season is, and that's purely Tim Curry in season 2.
Why am I not surprised?
Even for the fact that I'm the fan crush I clearly have on Curry, I think Slagar works better as the big bad than either Clooney or Batarang.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, he's got a backstory.
Yeah,
That helps.
Yeah.
it helps a great deal.
I'll say for me, the animation is still good, even if the placement of character models isn't always great, and the background art is, as always, fantastic. The voice acting definitely could have used an extra 5 or 6 takes.
Yes.
I will say that that's the big weakness that I'm seeing up to this point. At least in Madame Mayo, they had Redwall under their belts. They had a lot of the same returning voice actors, who already had some idea of their characters and were able to build off of that. Here, it falls flat except for Batarang and Clog. Because Batarang being Clooney's voice actor and Clog's just sounding like Mr. Krabs. I said it before and I'll say it again. Hello, I hate Batarang.
And the thing is, I would have loved to see Clancy Brown do that role.
Yeah.
That would have actually been entertaining to watch him take on Clog. Because he could be villainous, clearly. He was the freaking Kurgan in Highlander. But
he was also Lex Luthor in the DC Animated Universe and killed it.
Much less he's Mr. Krabs and can be joyful and, laugh. And it would be a good middle ground between those two extremes.
Mm-hmm. So I'll give it good for art and animation and meh on the voice acting. Storytelling, I understand the changes they made, so I can't really ding it for trying to be more child friendly. Especially because that's how I found the series, as a B-sensitive lad who probably would have been scared away if there was too much violence and scary imagery. So I have no room to complain there.
Again, fair.
Braden? I'm enjoying it. Like I do love adaptations, and sorry, Braden, I think I cut you off there a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I do enjoy adaptations. I feel like there's a lot that I'm missing. I just kind of, now that there's so much more television that's audio described, like streaming, a lot of the streaming services have audio description now. They describe like everything that's happening on the screen. I just realize how much I'm missing when I don't have that. Obviously, for new listeners, I am a blind person. Now, hopefully that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy it. Like some of the dialogue is a little cringy. Some of the music is a little like, obviously something bad is happening because of the dramatic music. But I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I really do enjoy any type of adaptation of a book that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. For me, it's been like almost an adjustment period because I haven't read the book in, I don't know, 20 years. And I started off being like, this is for kids. And the more I'm watching it, the more I'm like getting into it again, invested and like back into that mindset of like really appreciating Redwall, regardless of whether or not it's a cartoon versus the book. So if it's doing a good job at that, it's doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest strength of the series, both the books, the audiobook versions, and the animated series. It fuels imagination. And that
Yeah.
is something that, as a child, I was acutely aware that a lot of adults somehow just it evaporated for them, and I didn't want to lose that. And after putting down the series for about a decade and then coming back to it with the podcast and recovering everything, I feel like I have recaptured a portion of that imagination that I was missing. That being able to put myself back in the mindset of what it was like to be, 11, 12, 13 years old again, it just it stokes a fire that I didn't realize had gone out. So
Yeah.
it has relit that passion in me, and that's a wonderful thing.
I agree.
And for me, this is, regardless of the Netflix series coming or not, I wanted to come and recover this again because, it's a PBS cartoon, yes, but it's still a fair adaptation. And I'm not the type of nerd who gets so angry of, it was a 10-hour movie set and they skipped Tom Bombadil. I don't care. Okay? Like, I get adaptation has to change things. So long as you maintain the original spirit of what was there, you're gonna do fine.
Yeah.
And for the record, every time I've tried to read Lord of the Rings, and I feel bad because if I can get through Game of Thrones, I should be able to do this. I dead stop on Tom Bombadil because I just don't get the character.
I mean, to be fair, I couldn't get through either one of those series, so you got one up on me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna real quick. I'm gonna check our ratings because they're probably so perfect.
Oh, now you just jinxed it.
Yeah.
Probably. Yep, we still have 25 5-star ratings and no new written reviews.
25 people
Phew.
love us. Woo!
25 wonderful people. If you're one of those 25 people, we love you.
Indeed. Candy chestnuts for you.
Oh, so that's where Ernvo's candy chestnuts went.
Oh, right. Yeah, I may have actually brought them back with me. I was supposed to share them with you. I just gave them to all our reviewers. Sorry.
Oh well. So that being said, you can find us at recorderonthewall.com. Our Twitter is ROTWPOD. Our primary email is rotwpod@gmail.com. We are active on the Redwall forums, the Redwall subreddit Eulalia. We're available for listening on Apple Podcast, on Google Play Podcast, or whatever it's called now, on Spotify. And most of those other the small time, hey, we're going to just grab whatever RSS feeds and present it as a podcasting distribution site. We're probably on there because they probably grabbed our RSS feeds.
Sweet.
So next time, we'll cover more episodes of this cartoon. And then April approaches, and I might have extra guests coming on for Fan Fiction 5.
Ooh, intrigue.
If you would like us to cover a specific fan fiction, or want to subject us reviewing yours, that's fine. Let us know in advance. Our rules for Fanfiction 5 are always the same. We tend not to go more violent than the series proper. We do prefer fanfics that anybody can read, so nothing adult. And while I won't discourage them. I personally prefer not to do shipping fics, not because I get that they're a worthy fan expression, more just out of respect for the original author's intent with relationships.
Yeah.
That doesn't keep my fellow reviewers from covering shipping fics. Yeah, Braden, are you ready to go for that madness we do every year?
Oh, totally. I'm waiting for it.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then ahead
in
our
this
schedule
case,
for-
we have to have you something that is utterly jaw-dropping.
Oh, please do.
So I'm actually thinking about writing one this year. I have an idea. It's going to be short, but I'm thinking about doing it. Don't be too hard on me.
Of course not.
And as planned with the fanfic episode, also in concert, we'll have the trivia episode, and I've been steadily working on that, and I don't know whether to cheer for you all or weep for you and
Ah,
apologize.
see, Matthias, you're discovering what teachers love to admit about when they write tests. You can be evil to these kids.
Do you want a minor spoiler?
No, I don't think I do.
Katie, Braden, spoiler at all? Or do you want to be surprised?
I want to be surprised.
Yeah.
Okay. I will leave a cliffhanger and just say, you will find what I'm doing both predictable if you have gotten to know me well enough, but also you might not want to be my friend afterwards.
So you are writing it teacher style. No joke, folks. There's a time in my career I was a full-time teacher. I taught religion, and I every time I came to write tests, I probably was a little sadistic because I would literally put Voltaire's "When You're Evil" on. So I don't know if that makes me a good or bad teacher, but for now, I'm Papa Ebbet Pete.
I'm Matthias.
I'm Katie.
I'm Braden.
We'll see you next time. Make sure you study.
Hard questions.